Hi, my name is Erin, and welcome to the Tarotology podcast. Glad to have you joining us. Today, we're going to be doing a mid-December Tarotology forecast as opposed to a full December forecast since we're already well into the month, and we're going to be focusing specifically on some major transitions that are occurring right now in the stars. So we're going to be focusing on the total solar eclipse that is occurring today, actually on December 14th, as well as we're going to be focusing a bit on the Great Conjunction of 2020, which will occur on December 21st. So I'm very excited to explore these two major celestial events. So let's dive on in, shall we? Okay, let's start by talking about an eclipse and sort of lay the groundwork before we go too much further. What are eclipses? So eclipses occur when there are any three celestial bodies, planets, in alignment so that the second object obfuscates the first and the third from each other's view. So essentially some planet comes in between these other two planets. And because of that, you cannot see the initial planets. Generally, if there were planets that were looking at each other, they'd be facing each other, and then up pops this new planet, this new star, this new celestial body, and it blocks the other from each other's view. That's an eclipse, a very basic overview of what an eclipse is. An eclipse season, it happens generally 2 times per year, sometimes 3 times in a given calendar year, a bit of an exception, but usually 2 times per year. An eclipse season, we call it eclipse season because it is the time which the sun is approximately 18 degrees from a node. So that's when it starts, as it's about 18 degrees out from approaching either the north or the south node, the lunar nodes. And it ends when the sun is then separating from the node, is 18 degrees away from the node. So it's a 36-degree orb of influence. It happens twice per year, 2 nodes, and the sun makes a full circle, right? It goes through the ecliptic over the course of a year, 365 days in a year. So there are 360 degrees in a circle, ecliptic. Every day, the sun moves about 1 degree. Therefore, if there are 2 nodes on this 360-degree circle, it should come into contact with these nodes at 2 different points in the year. And so because of that 365-day thing, that's why we get into sometimes there's a beginning of a third season or an ending of one season, starts at the beginning of a year. And anyway, but for the most part, 2 eclipse seasons in a year. And eclipses themselves only actually occur on new moons and full moons when the sun and moon both happen to be near those nodes. So they may not be on top of the nodes directly, but during that 36-degree window in which the sun is near a node, that is when we're going to see eclipses. And we will see generally at least 1 solar eclipse and 1 lunar eclipse. Depending again on how fast things are going, on timing, it's possible that we could have a 3rd eclipse in a single eclipse season, but typically it's 2 eclipses. There is the solar eclipse, and that occurs on a new moon. So that's a new moon eclipse, when the sun and the moon are both conjunct one another and also conjunct or near one of the nodes, either the south node or the north node. Conversely, there is the lunar eclipse, and that is also known as the full moon eclipse. And that happens only on full moons when the sun and the moon are in opposition, so about 180 degrees apart on that ecliptic. And so the sun will be conjunct or near one node, and the moon will be conjunct or near another node. So the closer to the node that an eclipse occurs, the more powerful the eclipse is on our psyche, the energy. And so when we talk about the north node and we talk about the south node, let's explore what each of these mean, what the significance of the lunar nodes are. So the north node and the south node are often called the head and tail of the dragon. In Vedic astrology, they're known as Rahu, the head, and Ketu, the tail. And the north node is where we are going. It is our beginnings. future, gains. It's very forward facing. And the tail of the dragon, the south node, that is where we are coming from, our endings, past, losses. There's a bit of the destiny. That is where we came from. It's looking backwards on what made us. Sometimes you might think of it as karma in a way, although both really are related to karma in that respect. Lunar eclipses, and well, eclipses in general, they are like a new moon or a full moon magnified. It's the intensity of a regular new moon beginnings or the intensity of a full moon on steroids. So the effects are amplified. And the impact or the energy of an eclipse lasts from one eclipse season to the next. So if there are 2 eclipse seasons in a year, it's basically saying for 6 months. We have the impact and the energy that lingers. It stays with us for about 6 months. Or something that happens on a lunar or solar eclipse, maybe we don't really understand it or see the impact of it for that 6 months. So there's some sort of time delay in results or some sort of element of living in that energy for a 6-month period of time. So this eclipse that's happening December 14th today, this is a solar eclipse. It's actually a total solar eclipse. It is occurring in Sagittarius. So the sun is in Sagittarius in the tropical zodiac. It's that time of year. And the moon, because it is a new moon eclipse, is also in Sagittarius. So we have double Sagittarius energy happening right there. And as I mentioned earlier, if it's closer to the nodes, which this one happens to be, it's I think 3 degrees away from the node, from the south node, it is a stronger eclipse. And when we think about Sagittarius and the Sagittarius energy, and we're looking at the tarot, specifically, we're looking at the Temperance card if we're going based on the Golden Dawn associations. And when we think of the Temperance, we think philosophy, ways of thinking, beliefs. Also, people would say moderation. But when we talk about temperance, to temper, there's an element of making something stronger, forging something in the fire, right? Tempering steel, transforming it into something better. It's alchemical in that sense. So this particular eclipse, it occurs at the south node, which also means we're looking at endings, right? We talked about the tail of the dragon looking backwards, the past. Things are ending. So we are saying farewell to a troubling year for sure. We are mourning our collective and personal losses, be it our family, our friends, or jobs, even just our personal plans for 2020 that were uprooted. But there is hope, right? It's still a new moon, new beginnings and endings. Endings are really just making the way for new beginnings. Kind of reminds me of Harry Potter and the snitch. I open at the close. So the next 6 months, I think it'll be a challenge for sure. But now I feel like there's promise. I mean, even today, in the news in the United States, we saw that the vaccine, the COVID vaccine, was being delivered and administered to the first responders. It's the first time we're actually getting it out there to the people. And it's not the mass rollout. That'll take time, right? They're projecting several months, 6 months even. But again, by the next eclipse season, hopefully we shall see some, like I said, widespread vaccination and be able to resume our lives or just begin new lives. So I think this is a time of reflecting, taking stock, and grieving. It's hard what we've all been through, and we have to push through these next few months, and it won't be easy. It's calling upon us to dig deep, right? Temperance, going deep, finding that balance within ourselves, persevering a bit. And Sagittarius, our beliefs, our philosophy, way of thinking, being open to and embracing new ways of thinking, of challenging our beliefs, rallying together to get through this period. I do think it is the start of what we're going to see just a week from now with the Great Conjunction of 2020, where we have Jupiter and Saturn both leaving Capricorn this week. think December 16th and 19th, I believe, based on where you are in the world. And Jupiter has been in its fall in Capricorn for quite some time and was hindered in its ability to do good, to be the benefic. It was stuck. It did not like being in Capricorn. And not only that, but it was in Capricorn next to Saturn, and Saturn was in its domicile. And it will be in its domicile again in Aquarius, but its expression is less comfortable in Capricorn than it is in Aquarius. And then on December 21st, winter solstice, Yule, as we're changing the seasons, wonderful how symbolic is, because we are changing the seasons from an earth-based season to an air-based season of life, as both Saturn and Jupiter move into the air sign and conjoin on December 21st. And why is that important? To understand why this particular conjunction is known as the Great Conjunction, I think it's important to understand how the Jupiter-Saturn conjunctions work and what that cycle looks like. So Jupiter-Saturn conjunctions happen in 20-year cycles. So during a 200-year period, they always conjoin every 20 years. And it'll be in one of the three signs belonging to a given element for that 200-year period, before it shifts to a new element for the next 200-year period or cycle. So this conjunction on December 21st really sees that shift from the Earth element, in which Saturn and Jupiter have been conjoining for basically the past 200 years. Now, there was a brief period in the 80s where we did see a quick ingress and conjunction in Aquarius, but then it reverted back to the Earth element, Capricorn, for a little bit longer. We are seeing this shift from an earth-based life, earth-based thinking, earth-based reality to an air-based reality. So symbolically, this represents a shift from earth, which is grounded, rooted, firm, immobile, heavy, and stable, to air, which is mobile, free, light, floating, unstable, communicative, and associated with technology. So can you see how that dynamic shifts? And we've seen it already in this 2020 bridge year. We've had to learn to be more flexible. Flexibility is very air quality. We've had to learn to rely on virtual platforms and communicating with people remotely and change management, all those air things. But this is going to be not a shift, but it's also going to be the closest that these planets will be physically since the Middle Ages, which is crazy to think about. And since Jupiter and Saturn are both visible planets, they're the traditional planets, so we can see them with our naked eye. You can look up to the sky after sunset, starting tomorrow, December 15th, and see what appears to be this superstar visible in the night sky. So go out. I urge you to, if you're able, go out and look to the stars, look to the sky, gaze at the cosmos, and try to find this brilliant beacon of hope, which is fantastic when you think about this, because Aquarius in the tarot is the star card. It is the water bearer constellation, Ganymede. That is the constellation. And in the star card, we have that depicted. We have a figure pouring water into a pool, pouring water out into the world, symbolic of pouring healing into the world, which we need healing more than ever right now. We need hope. And that's what the star card is. It is hope. And the star is that same star which appears in the hermit's lantern and guides us through the darkness to wisdom. It's just so poetic. And so as we make this last push to get out of this 2020 energy and into 2021, I encourage you to reflect on what this eclipse is calling on you to do, to look back, figure out what you have to say goodbye to, but also to look forward to the hope. What do you want to work on, to grow between now and the next eclipse season? Where do you want to put your energy, your time, and resources? What is it that matters most to you? And what do you want to be your project, your legacy, your what have you for this new era we're about to enter into. Be intentional on what we start now at this time of alignment, this time of potential, this time of all of these energies conjoining in historic ways. We're entering a new era, and it's not that age of Aquarius with a capital age, but it is nonetheless a new dawn, a new time for us, for our lives, and for thinking about what is important to us, what really matters. So I hope that you got something out of this discussion today. And like I said, if you are able to go out and look up in the stars and see that giant beacon of hope in the sky. And I wish you a fantastic winter solstice, fantastic holiday season. If you are celebrating any of the myriad holidays that occur this time of year, please do so safely. And I wish you well. I wish you a wonderful holiday, and I wish you many blessings, and I wish you hope. Thanks so much for listening. And if you're interested, you can learn more at my website, which is learntarology.com. Thank you so much for joining. Take care.